Alright, Gamera series, you gotta add some variety or else you're gonna lose the audience. This is Gamera vs. Jiger, the 6th Gamera movie, and the first since Gamera vs. Gauss that does not involve any aliens. The plot to this is that there is a World Expo being built in Japan, and one of the exhibits that the Japanese plan to have there is to showcase this statue called the Devil's Whistle. So rather than just building a replica of the statue, because it would be easier, an American archaeologist and his team of researchers decide to go to where the Devil's Whistle is, grab it by helicopters, just fly it to Japan. And with a name like the Devil's Whistle, what could possibly go wrong? How about awaken a giant monster that's been living underneath the statue called Jiger? That's right, removing the statue has awakened this monster called Jiger, which decides to go after the statue, and because we fucked up again, Gamera has to come in and save the day. Once again. So you could probably sense a lack of enthusiasm from me as I talk about this movie, because when you get to the 6th movie, this applies for any film series that just keeps doing the same thing over and over, it starts to get very boring. You start to predict everything that's going to happen. You, pinpoint whenever a moment's supposed to happen. Like, okay, this is the part where Gamera gets taken out of the movie for a bit. This is the part where we have the military and scientists talking. This is the part where the scientists and military plan fails, so the kids suggest, hey, let's bring in Gamera again. Let's try to save Gamera, and he'll fight Jiger and stop her. It's just getting into the realm of cliched. And since I'm watching these movies for the first time, within a few days of each other, in chronological order, this movie is definitely that case of more of the same, not adding anything new. Like the other movies, it does have some unintentionally funny moments that you could laugh at with your friends, with some beer or pot, but then it's also filled with a lot of bullshit that you just don't really care about. You just want to see the two monsters fight, even if it, like the past few movies, isn't really all that exciting in terms of execution. Jiger is a rather tame monster, similar to Barugon in terms of just subtlety. Although the abilities and powers that Jiger has aren't very subtle. She can shoot jet streams out of her cheeks to make her fly for a tiny bit, or skid across water at a high speed. She can shoot spikes out of her horns. She can impregnate Gamera, which is the cause for him to just be out of commission for a good chunk of the movie. And also she can shoot some sort of ray out of her forehead that turns everyone to skeletons and just creates a horrible noise. So it's really hard to talk about this movie because what I want to say about this movie, I've mainly said about the past few movies. It's, again, more of the same. So it's just, again, mediocre. The best thing I could do is talk about the two weirdest things about this movie, in particular, that separates it from the other ones. One, we have a whole bunch of English-speaking actors, or actors who look like they could speak English, and for some reason speak Japanese the whole time. They don't bother to speak English, even though there were actors in the past movies who could speak English. Even when an American-looking actor is speaking to another American-looking actor, they both speak to each other in Japanese. It's like, okay, it's good that you know Japanese for not being Japanese, but you guys couldn't just speak English to each other for this moment and just let the studio subtitle it? And then probably the most bizarre moment is there's a point in the movie, as I mentioned, where Jiger impregnates Gamera with a baby, and that, for some reason, puts Gamera out of commission and just kind of freezes up. So there's a part in the movie where the scientists are figuring out what's wrong with Gamera, and to show what's wrong with him, one of the scientists brings in a clip of real documentary footage of this elephant that had larva in its trunk, and so they slit it open and larva spills out. Now, I've heard about this scene beforehand, so I was kind of bracing myself when it was about to come up. And when it first popped up, I was like, alright, this is probably the infamous elephant trunk scene. How bad could it be? Oh my god! And that's really not much of an exaggeration. That's actually kind of how I felt. I really wanted to vomit after watching that. Because, In movies, mainly comedies, I've seen a lot of disgusting shit. Like, the most recent example is A Million Ways to Die in the West, when Neil Patrick Harris shits in a hat and it's diarrhea. Like, we see it and like, okay, that's probably black beans, chunky peanut butter to create the look of diarrhea. That's not real at all. This is fucking real. It's like, you slit open an elephant's trunk and like just stuff spills out and you're like, oh my god. Like, the more real something is, the more it's gonna have an effect on you. And that, like, on top of all that, who the fuck decided to put in there? Because this is a kid's movie. Why would kids want to see this? And guess what? It doesn't solve anything. It does not solve how to stop Jiger. It does not solve how to help Gamera. It's there for reasons I cannot comprehend. This movie, it's pretty much like the past movies. You can enjoy it for its cheesiness if you had friends, beer, and pot, but again, you might as well just be better off watching the past two movies because it doesn't go to the level of insanity that Gamera vs. Virus or Gamera vs. Giran did. So this is a movie you watch at your own risk. I enjoyed parts of it, but really, 6 movies in and not changing anything up, this series is starting to lose my patience. The original series. And that's my review for Gamera vs. Jiger. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the movie. Like, subscribe, go check out my video blog channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and go like my Facebook page. This is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.